Welcome, bienvenue, welcome one and all. I'm very pleased to be joined in the virtual studio by none other than the lady herself, Deborah White of Speech Designer. Now,
Hi, Gareth.
for all your English speaking chums out there and those who want to speak English better, Speech Designer is a mixture of methodologies, concepts, ideas, a little bit of software, all rolled together with Deborah effectively fronting the whole thing and running the whole thing from. It's basically your fundamental idea and idea set that has led to this, to help people be more confident in communication, especially in speech, both written and verbal. Now, here's my segue, if I may, to today's topic, which is all about confidence in speaking. Now, to my mind, confidence in speaking is all about being able to present to any number of people, whether it be one or 100 or 1,000, and feeling like you can speak fluidly without constantly thinking and none of that should happen because of the way in which you program yourself to do it. However, I want to ask the professional, what is confidence in speaking, Deborah?
That's a really good question. And I don't know about you, but can you remember any time in your life where you've had to stand in front of an audience and you're stuck for words, or even worse, you say the wrong thing?
Absolutely.
And certainly for myself, I can remember a time in primary school where we had a school production, a play. I had one of the main parts, and I literally said exactly the wrong thing. Um, I just said, oops. And it's not worrying about that, but actually just relaxing and being yourself in front of the camera. So, what is confidence? Well, maybe it's a feeling, but maybe you can just imagine or recall those times where you want the earth to swallow you up because you've had that embarrassing moment. Or
But
confidence.
you know what I mean? The confidence, as you say, it's a feeling, but there are ways of mitigating against that feeling, because I think it's that feeling that causes the sudden loss of words, the sudden loss of impetus, making you standing in front of all those people unable to verbalize.
Yeah, I think one thing is knowing your topic, but there are some techniques. If you have that feeling of nervousness before you speak, there are some people, professionals, who will do sport before they have to present, or even just pushing a wall, pushing against something and causing some kind of pressure. And then they're internally, whatever the physiological side of things, they actually have built up
I think it's
to,
an adrenaline thing. I think
yeah,
if you can get things going, that's why the sports thing. You do a quick run around the block, you're a little bit pumped. You've got extra nervous energy, and your brain has told your body be ready for action. It makes you think a little bit quicker, I think.
exactly. And I know for myself, I have some situations in my life where I chose not to put my hand up and present. And whilst I was living in England and in my mother tongue. Now, there have been also times, as soon as I was in a foreign setting and in a language which was not my mother tongue, having to present because I didn't take the opportunity to practice when I was in my own mother tongue at university, for example, where I just thought, hey, let's just chill out and let the rest of the group lead the conversation. If we take those opportunities to practice, even I know when we're preparing a presentation, we often have to make those bullet points, and it's great to practice in front of a mirror. But taking any opportunity you can to speak and to say your opinion and to help people, I'd say go for it.
But I'd say one thing: often confidence is a reflective tool. So what I mean by that is if you say something and you're looking to get a reaction from the audience, and they give it to you, whether it's laughter or groaning or smiles or any of these kind of things, that then kind of injects you full of confidence to move forward. So I often, like, when I talk to groups of people, which I do fairly often, I look to put in a pause, and the
You
pause.
absolutely hit the nail on the head there, because, and this is something that we look at in speech designer, is what's important is actually that connection with your audience. And so that may be in the form of telling a personal story where you invite them into your space and they're thinking, actually, I can see that triggers something, that triggers a memory. Oh, I remember when that happened to me as well. And you trigger a feeling. And what we look at specifically in speech designer is the rhythm and the melody of how you speak.
I
And
was Imagine the scene. 400 people sat there, some of them parents, some of them otherwise, all crowded in a square room. There was a dais in the middle, and beside the dais was a small stool, so a small little boy could stand up. The microphone prepped, crackling, in fact. Of course, I go and do that thing, tap, tap, tap. It booms around the auditorium. Everybody's hanging my every word, and I stand there, and suddenly I forget my own name, and I can't remember anything at all. And I looked down and at my best friend at the time, and I looked down at him, Adam Walton, and he said, mouthed at me, Gareth. And I went, oh yes, I'm Gareth Wax, and I'm here to talk about. And immediately I did that. It was almost like somebody had pulled the chocks out from under the wheel, and I could suddenly start moving forward. So what I've just done there is give you the demonstration of putting you into the location, describing it, making you feel like you're there with me, so that when I tell you that I stopped and I was tongue-tied and couldn't get the words out, and then I needed that small impetus to make me move forward, you can feel it too. I've painted a story.
absolutely. And it brought me back to a time when in this school production in primary school, instead of saying, welcome to the school production, I said, welcome to the assembly. And as we had school assemblies, and that's what we do in the UK, we have assemblies at the beginning of each day, but it just,
Absolutely.
everyone laughed so hard. And but it's that also, I think one thing as well, as whilst you're connecting with the audience, sometimes you have this feeling of, I want to fit in, I want to be liked. And it's like, how do you get over that? And you actually just have to get over that and make a decision. It doesn't matter, just be passionate and be yourself, and be yourself to be liked. I mean, whether people like you or not.
I think a very important thing is that it doesn't matter in so many ways whether the reaction is happiness or horror, as long as there is a reaction. If you are talking and they just stay stonily faced at you, that's like a vacuum sucking away the impetus and the direction and the drive and the momentum. However, if you say something, however silly or preposterous, and they all laugh or they snigger or they smile or whatever it is, that is happy juice. That keeps you going. That gives you the adrenaline rush. That makes you want to keep going. You want more of that. This is how stand-up comedians get their kicks. Remember, they
Yeah,
keep saying groups of phrases that either put you into that situation, remind you of a scenario, or make you laugh at the absurdity of something.
yeah.
Whatever it is, they're getting a reaction. So you need that reaction from the audience.
Yeah, and I've said it before, but in previous webinars, but if you focus on yourself, then your feeling can be fear, but you need your impact to be on just connection and engagement with your audience. If your focus is on your purpose, and actually I need to get these words of the school play out there, I need to do this job, then you just go for it.
It's about engaging. And I think finding the fear is useful. I think ignoring the fear means it can pop up at any moment and ruin things, because suddenly it will be the frontal portion of your brain overtaking everything and pushing you down. And that's when you can become tongue tied. I think you need to acknowledge the fear in yourself and say,
Mhm.
you know, I am apprehensive. All those people are going to be staring at me, but there's a reason for that. That's because I'm going to entertain them in some way. Perhaps I'm going to give them words which they're going to find useful. Perhaps I'm going to say things that's going to make them smile or laugh. Perhaps I'm going to make them change direction in their thought patterns. Whatever it is, you're going to be giving stuff. Mostly, hopefully, they're going to be listening. And that's why I love the pause. I like putting pauses often in the middle of words or in a place where they didn't expect one to be, because at that point they're all hanging on your next word. They're all hanging, waiting for you to do something, and that's a tremendous amount of power in that.
Absolutely. And that is actually how we like to train people in speech designer. And whatever you are in your mother tongue, when you move to another language, then you almost become a different personality. And we like to, with precision, help you speak English in a better language. And there is a sense of, if you speak more like a native speaker, that actually gives you confidence as well.
I've got something which actually I didn't tell her I was going to say this, but I think this might be amusing. There's a gentleman in America called Reggie Watts. He known for his huge, enormous Afro type thing going on there. He does a lot of beatboxing and loop station stuff and all that nonsense. But the most amazing thing is the ability to sound like he's talking in foreign languages when he's just talking rubbish. And if you look, there's a TEDx with Reggie Watts where he fully engages you. Yet, even when he gets to the portion where he's speaking, he goes between what sounds Portuguese, French, uh, uh, I can't remember. It's two. I think that not German, but it's another one. And then he slides into English, and then he slides into American English, and then UK English. But he's just talking about utter rubbish. But you go with him purely because of the way he phrases stuff.
Mhm.
Just check it out. It's a TEDx, I believe, with Reggie Watts. I think Reggie Watts engages and confuses.
Yeah.
If you look up TEDx and Reggie Watts, I guarantee all of you will be amused, and it would be lovely if you even give us a few reactions having watched that back on here. It's just illustration of
Mm.
how just by phrasing and changing the tone of your voice, you
Mm.
can sound more earnest and
And
more intriguing.
yeah, I think every single language has their own sounds. And it reminds me of a clip by the comedian Catherine Tate,
Ah,
where she goes into an office and pretends that she can translate for a business meeting. And as she goes, she just makes the relevant, well, a similar sound to that language, or what she thinks that language sounds like. And what's important, certainly when you're learning a language, is to copy exactly how the other person speaks, listen and copy. And, my first time of having to give a presentation or speak abroad was in French. I was in the French speaking part of Switzerland. And all of a sudden, to my horror, I had to share in this group of about 30 people, and I was thinking, "Oh my goodness, I do not like doing this in English, let alone in another language. What am I gonna say?" And I thought of what to say, and I was able to present something, but, and I realized that I wasn't speaking like a native speaker, which is obviously our topic at Speech Designer, and I made a decision, I'm gonna listen very carefully and copy how they're spoken, and I'm not joking, when several years later, I had people thinking I was a native speaker
do
until
you
I
know?
said too many sentences, but just if I got the sound right and the tonality and the melody, and people really thought I was a native speaker.
Um, so just for amusement's sake,
You're gonna make me
no,
have
no, I wouldn't do that to you. I wouldn't
I'm
do that to you.
leave it like
That would be very mean. I'm not a mean person.
Mhm.
Um, what I'm going to do is I'm going to share about half a minute's worth of Reggie Watts confusing you just by vocally freaking people out. I find it very amusing. See if I can actually get that presented. It's the whole point about it is I'm just showing you just by you changing the tone of your voice, sounding like you're being very earnest in a foreign language, even though it's absolute utter nonsense. You still got everybody going with you. It's absolutely crazy. So here we go. Let's see if we can do that. This is Reggie Watts. Can you see that screen?
We need the sound as well.
You can hear the sound?
No. And if you could make the picture full size.
Okay, let me just. No. I think we're going to have to give that a miss, unfortunately. It's just refusing to play. Technology, eh?
We can add the link. We'll add the link underneath.
I'll put the link in there underneath. It's a TED talk that he starts off sounding like he's talking in either Spanish or Portuguese. And I had a Portuguese a speaker say this is absolute nonsense. But it really it just the intonation and the way he's doing it makes you feel like yeah. Whatever he's saying. But it's all about presence. It's all about owning the moment and not being frightened of it. I promise you, they won't judge you. What they'll judge is, are you keeping them entertained? Are you giving them information in such a way that they either want to hear more, or they just want to process what you've given? There's nothing worse than having a monotonal speech where the volume never alters and it's always the same tonal stance. There's no difference. Before very long, you feel your eyes dropping, and it's terrible. It's about variation of speech pattern. I mean, I'm talking about myself here. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, and I think obviously there are some very practical things that you can do
Good
to help you. And I do think it's worth obviously writing out if you have the time. If you're not able to be spontaneous, writing. I mean, you Gareth, you have an ability to be able to talk about anything with for at least 5 minutes. You would make a fantastic politician on that sense as well, because that's what they need to do. But write things down, create bullet points, practice in front of a mirror, record yourself, and maybe do a lap, a bit of sport before you
Yeah, but I would say a lot of people are scared to see themselves play back. I think you need to make peace with that. That is who you are. That's how the world sees you. So what you need to do is make peace with both how it looks and how it sounds. And I know you may not like the sound of your voice, but this is the way in which this is the tool you're going to use to communicate with others.
Yeah.
And I'd say at the very least, slow it down a little bit and just be more intentional with the way in which you talk.
Good advice.
Cool. Well, look, thank you so much, Deborah. It's always a joy actually to talk to you. I'm glad we're both talking about a topic which I feel passionate about, and I know you do too. Guys, if you want to get in touch with her, remember it's speech designer. Literally type that in the old interwebs and up she comes. Don't hesitate to get in touch. She's working actively with one of my team who is finding the whole process magical, and it's opening up modes of speech that were hitherto a mystery to him. So all I can say, spend some time with Deborah and thank me later. Deborah, as ever, a pleasure to have you on. I wish all of you listening an incredibly useful week, hopefully uplifting and supportive by one and all, and of course, great mental health. Bye-bye now.
Bye.